Hi guys, welcome to My Love and Grace with Laurie, where I share stories about how God shows up in my life, what he says, what he does. Some of the things are kind of crazy and big events and big things, and some of them are kind of more everyday things. But today is day 8, and so let's jump right in. Have you ever watched the show Biggest Loser? That was one of my favorite shows. I would love watching just how, people stepped up to put in their best effort to transform their life, and just so much inspiration. Like, it was so inspirational for me to see their life change for the better, not just their body, but their thoughts, their mind, their perspectives, just their habits and patterns. But one of the things that I really liked about that is I loved watching them and hearing that they ran a half marathon, which was a huge accomplishment, coming from where they had been before to run a half marathon, to show up for it. And I thought, oh man, that'd be so cool to do that someday, to say, hey, check mark, I did that. That would be so cool. Well, in the summer of 2015, I found out that there was going to be a half marathon right here in Lee Summit, Missouri. And I thought, wow, this is my chance. This is it. This is it. And I told Dan, and he was excited too. And I thought about it. And what I was really thinking about is this is going to take a lot of commitment. This is going to take a lot of time. This is going to take my energy. I'm going to have to show up and train for this. This is going to be hard. This is not going to be fun. This is the summertime. This is going to be hot. I just started making all these excuses why I couldn't do it. I wasn't going to do it. It's too hard. I know, if I'm going to do this, I have to show up with no compromise, no excuses. It's got to be all out. And I don't think I'm up for that. I'm no, I don't think I want to do it. And it sounds cool, but it's too much work. It's too much effort, and it's a lot. So, I don't think it's gonna happen. So I brushed it off. I'm like, it's not gonna happen for me, because I knew this was it. This was my chance. If I want to do it, it's right here. And I was like, no, too hard, too much effort. There's gonna be a lot of training, a lot of commitment. Anyway, a few days later, God comes to me and says, would you run it for your father-in-law? Would you run it for Ken? Will you do it for him? And I'm like, wait, what? Didn't you understand? I already said no. It was already too hard. It was already too much work. My first reaction kind of when the Lord asked me that, and when God asks you something like that, for me, it's a thought in my head that I know I didn't come up with. And my first reaction was kind of because I knew it was, that's hard. I don't know. Because the other thing is, you guys, I'm pretty great at starting things, but I'm not super great at being consistent or finishing them. And I knew this was a thing that you've got to start, you've got to be consistent and finish. That's not me, but that's what he was asking me to do. And I just had a lot of reasons why I couldn't. And then I thought about it, and I came to these conclusions. Okay, well, God is asking me. So, number one, if God asks me, he's going to make sure I complete it. If I just do what I can do, God is going to equip me in what I can't do. He's going to be there with me and for me. If he's asking me, it's going to happen. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, it will come to completion. I will complete it. It'll be okay. Number two, I just have to show up. This is going to be something that I've got to just show up, be consistent, like several times a week. I've got to train. I've got to put in the work to show up. Also, I kind of wasn't sure in his purpose in this. Like, I am not sure why he asked me to do it, with the exception of something you might not know at this time. My father-in-law was in the fight of his life. He was enduring hospital stays and health crisis, ICU, multiple procedures. It was a lot. He went into the hospital on May 15th in 2015, and it was like months and months and months and months. There were a few little breaks, days here and there that he went home, but then he went right back. It was really, really a rough, serious, hard time for him. And so at this time when the Lord asked me, he was in the middle of this fight for his life in the hospital. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I knew at that moment when I said yes, it meant I was saying yes to showing up, to being committed, to doing the work. Like, I knew. I didn't know all of God's reasons for why he was asking me to do this, but I was willing to do it. And so in the running process, training process, I trained typically 3 days a week. I would go out running. One of the things I realized is that my feet would go numb. Almost every run, my feet would go numb. And of course they told me, oh, well, your shoes aren't big enough. You need the right kind of shoes. You guys, I'm not a runner. I know there's a lot of just details in, the right shoes and the right fit and all of that. And we literally tried everything and it just didn't matter. My feet just went numb. It was just kind of a thing that I had to push through and do it anyway. Push through and do it anyway. And so that's one of the things that I encountered. Another thing is I would visit the running stores where I was trying to figure out what shoes I should wear. And they were like, well, how many miles are you running these days? And I'm like, sometimes 3, sometimes 8. I don't know, just, whatever. And they're like, wait, you're supposed to train and build up to those miles. You don't just jump around like that. I'm like, God tells me how many miles we're running when I go out, and whatever he says, that's how many we do. And I know that's not a normal training, but I knew nothing about running. And I was just being obedient to God, and literally the Spirit, in my spirit, when I would start out, probably I want to say right around mile 2 or 3, the Lord would let me know how far we were running that day. That's just how it happened. I remember there were days when I ran that the humidity was so high and it was so thick that I struggled to breathe. And I remember thinking, oh my goodness, I wonder if my father-in-law, this is what he feels like, just it's hard to breathe. I was wondering if that's what he was feeling, and what he felt like, and super scary, super difficult. Another day I went out, I kind of needed to get a run in because I had missed the day before. And so I knew to meet my 3-day quota, I had to go out. Well, so happens there was a thunderstorm. And when I very first went out, it hadn't started yet. But when I made it to the dam, which was probably, I'll say a mile and a half actually, I realized the sky was very black and a downpour just started pouring on me, lightning, thunder, and I'm like, you know what? I'm getting this in, me and God. I'm getting this done. My legs were taped. At this point, I was having a little bit of trouble with some sciatica pain and stuff. I had my tunes in, and it wasn't very much further with the pouring rain. My earbuds were falling out. My tape was falling off my legs, and I went ahead and ran another mile and a half, and then it was just my tunes stopped working. And I sat down for a minute to kind of regather myself to try to figure out if I could get the music working again. And literally, once I got it working again, it stayed on one song all the way home. It was like 2 miles to get home. and it was a song, Overcomer by Mandisa. You're an overcomer by Mandisa. I guess the Lord knew I needed to hear that song, like, you're an overcomer, just keep going, just keep going. And that was the song that played on for the rest of that run. My first run past 10 miles, I almost passed out. I went down on the ground, just like nothing left. And that was the run that I realized, oh, well, you need to prepare before you get to the big miles like this. Like, you should have had some kind of those fruit chews, you know, in the previous miles so that you didn't just drop. And so I learned, okay, we'll put a few fruit chews in like at mile 3 or 4, and then some more in miles like 7 or something before you get up to those numbers, so you have the endurance to keep going. And so that was something that I learned, because I didn't want that to happen again. Anyway, I ended up sitting there for a few minutes, and I bummed a water off of a neighbor. I was by her house. I'm like, please let her come out, please let her. And she did. She came out, and I'm like, can I just have a water? She offered to drive me home. I'm like, I'll be good in a minute. I just need to take a few minutes. But I knew God had a far greater plan than I could imagine. I didn't know what it was. He was equipping me to do whatever it is that he wanted from me. My job was just to obey, get up, get dressed, and start running. And I pretty much did that at 7 a.m. The mornings that I ran, I was out on the front porch in my gear at 7 a.m. ready to go. It wasn't pretty. I'm a super slow runner. I'm kind of like run like a rock. It's very slow pace, like snail's pace. But I showed up. And, you know, he would coach me. Like I said, he would tell me how far to go. But I just remember him coaching me how to run hills, and how to go the distance, and just finishing the race, just feeling like he was right with me and right beside me. And it was just an experience that I wouldn't trade for anything. I actually had some little buttons made that said "Run for Ken," and just encouraged people to wear them, invited people to come out and support him. This was just really about encouraging him on his journey, his health journey. And so as he was just battling in the hospital, just really wanting him to be encouraged, and just asking for people to pray for him also in the process. In Matthew 5:16, it says, "In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father." I'm not sure why God asked me, like I said before. I don't understand the whole picture, but I said, yes, Lord, I will do it. I will run for Ken with you, God. So what is the race that you're running right now? Have you given up or fallen behind? Is it too hard? Or have you been afraid to start? Man, that was me on this one. I'm like, I'm not even gonna start. Like, it just sounds too hard. Or have you been so overwhelmed that you haven't been able to finish? Wouldn't it be easier to run with God than without Him? So many people were being so supportive to me. Like on Facebook, they'd be like, you got this, you can do it. And you guys, when I would read those, you know what I would think? I was like, no, I don't. And no, I can't. But God will, and God can. When people say those comments, you got this, you can do it, and I know it's supposed to be encouraging, but this was a situation that clearly was like not in my wheelhouse, like not my strength. It was like, no, I can't, but with God, I can. I don't know if you've ever felt like that in situations, but I'm like, no, I don't got it, but God has me. God has me. So I knew I couldn't do it on my own, and I didn't even want to try. But from start to finish, I trained for 101 days, and I ran over 220 miles. That's the power of God. I remember one tip, I want to share this with you, that the Lord gave me on running that just transformed how I did on my runs, just made a huge difference in my endurance and how well I did. I would always work so hard when I was out there running, like physically, like pushing myself. And one day the Lord said, I want you to rest and relax on the downhills. You're working hard on the uphills. You're working hard on the straightaways. You're working hard on the downhills. Like, you are pressing on and pushing on, but I don't want you to do that on the downhills. Instead, I want you to sit back and relax. Basically, I want the gravity of the weight of your body to work. And all you got to do is catch yourself with your legs. So let gravity work, the weight of your body, take you to the next step. And all you got to do is catch yourself. You guys, I passed people when I did that. And while I was passing people, like, my breathing was getting caught up. Like, I was relaxing because I wasn't working. I was letting gravity do the work, letting my legs just catch me. And it held me for a longer endurance. It kind of gave my body a rest from working and that strain. It gave my breathing a rest. It helped me so much by that little tip right there. That's his power. When he's with you, he can give you those tips. When you're listening, he can give you those tips in life, whatever journey you're on. It doesn't matter. Will you invite him in to the race that you're in? So one more thing that I've got to share with you about the story that's unbelievable, and that's God, the power of God, is this is what really sealed the deal for me when I agreed to run the race, this half marathon. Race day, the actual Sunday that the race was on, guess whose birthday it was? Yep, it was my father-in-law Ken's birthday on race day. It was so cool. He was able to come out of the hospital. He was in a wheelchair that day. He sat on the corner and high-fived me as I ran by. Only God can do that. His birthday was race day. Anyway, it was so amazing. I'll show you a picture. I don't know how quality it is, but okay, my computer just, there we go. This is us. There we go. I'd finished the race. I'm wearing the race shirt, and I gave him the medal. I told him, you know what? Your race was tougher than mine. You were fighting for your life. I was just out there doing a few miles. But anyway, and he's still racing today. Praise God for bringing him through that hard time. And I hope this encouraged you today. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.